When Rob Moshein and Bob Atchison headed to Texas from California in 1992, planting themselves on foreign ground was a bit of a revelation. Their inherent creativity took root as they figured out Texas tough. With a passion for Italian art and history, they honored their new home after Gilbert and Lily Langtry.
Palazzo di cani neri, which is Italian for the Palace of the Black Dogs.
Their homesickness faded when they found the house of their dreams.
The house was built in 1927, and it's in the Spanish Revival style that was very popular in California at that time. It's very rare in Austin. There are only a few of them, and mostly in this neighborhood. The architect was Hugo Cuny, who was the first dean of the architecture school at UT, and that's when he built the house. For Ed Rather, who was the head of the co-op, the first head of the university co-op.
In the garden, they wrote a new chapter in its history.
The front yard was nothing.
Just grass with a magnolia
grass.
tree.
Yeah, it was.
That's all. And this palm tree.
This palm tree, that
Just
magnolia
2 things,
tree.
nothing else.
Grass, a broken up concrete walkway.
Since they're on a busy runway to the University of Texas at Austin, they wanted to gently corral its wide open spaces.
So we put the porticus in the front, this big arch, and then the one on the side to make it feel more like sort of an enclosed little paradise, sort of like a Persian or Moorish garden.
But we didn't want it totally screened off from the neighborhood. We still wanted the interaction of people walking by and people being able to see and share the flowers and, you know, just all the plants and everything as they walk by. So we very intentionally walked the line between privacy and sort of defining this as another room of the house, but not totally closing it off to the public and the passersby.
At the front door, they designed a courtyard for themselves and friends. Their water trough distracts from the hustle, either from work or from the roadway. To spill its symphony, they had cast in bronze copies of the 16th century merman at Rome's Piazza Navona.
People love it because you can see it from the street, you can hear it from the street. And the really cool thing is that we have toads that live in both of our fountains.
Houston brown toads.
Houston brown toads. And listen to this. Our next door neighbor would serenade our toads with a didgeridoo.
And she came out one night, and she and the
A
toad
duet.
were having a duet with one another in the garden. It was the most Austin
At
thing
night.
I've ever seen in my life. It's part of the reason why we keep the fountains full.
They live here too. The squirrels and the birds and the toads.
I take 5-gallon buckets and fill it with the shower water while I'm waiting for it to get hot to keep the fountains topped off, because I'm trying to be sensitive to, the drought restrictions, but we have the toads, so it's kind of like we kind of need to keep it full for them too.
Raised beds at the curb define their space and change the gradient view. Mainly, they're to grow the hardy roses and companions that Bob loves. By raising them up with well-drained soil over clay, they're trouble-free companions all year. They pull attention inwards with their statue of goddess Diana.
I've always been interested in Pompeian Herculaneum. It's been one of my passions all my life. So I wanted to have a Pompeian garden. And so we wanted to have a large statue out front, but we weren't sure what to get. And so we canvassed the neighborhood and showed them our ideas. One of the things about Diana, when we were going to put her up, is she's bare-breasted. And so one of the things we asked our neighbors, would you be offended if we had a statue like this in our front yard? And so we asked, and everyone said, no, this is the one we want, the one with the 2 dogs.
Our neighbors always would meet us and go, "Oh, you're the guys with the 2 black dogs." And so that one having the 2 black dogs, it just kind of made the right choice.
They also attract attention with brilliant colors, including coleus and Magilla perilla.
I tried to used to have things like a white garden originally, and it was so boring. And now we mix wild colors together. We try to make it as colorful as possible because, again, the neighbors love it.
One good fortune of the house is the original ironwork crafted by Fortunat Weigel. In back, they retreat to their secret garden. Although the structure is original, Bob added the elements of an old Roman house. In one patio, Bob designed a new fountain rendered by Jeep Concannon of Concannon Studios before he passed away.
And it finally became this paradise. It was everything I always wanted. And last year, when it was so hot, I used to hate the Austin heat. But when it was so hot, coming out here just makes me feel so wonderful. So I'm out here in the garden like hours every day, you know, just when it's 100 degrees, loving it. And
Yeah.
I never thought that would happen.
I do the same thing every afternoon. I come out about 5 o'clock with the dogs and a glass of wine, and we hang out for an hour and a half or two, you know, till dinner time, just to be out here.
Some people were walking by our house one day and asked us, they said, "You must know the people from Downton Abbey." And so I was joking around and said, "This is Bobton Abbey," since my name is Bob. And I thought, we tell these stories to people. Who knows what stories people will be telling about our house 100 years from now.
The funniest one was the fellow who came here to deliver something and actually thought it was an Italian restaurant.
Asked for the menu.
And he
Wanted to see the
he
menu.
said, "What kind of food do you make? Can I see the menu?"
A couple of days ago, a couple with their 2 children were walking by, and this little girl was going, "Daddy, Daddy, I want to see the statue." And so she came dancing down the path to see Diana with the 2 dogs. She wanted to touch her. And so goes, "Daddy, Daddy, they live in a castle. I feel like a princess."